Let's Achieve Change is a podcast by Pamela Grove, Doctor of Physical Therapy, Pain and Movement Specialist of Metanoia Education and Wellness Center. I propose to be that advocacy channel, making you aware, bringing the public more information on health and wellness topics, especially as it pertains to chronic pain and disabilities. I would like to be that voice for those silent sufferers out there who are not able to speak for themselves. If you'd like to know more about Let's Achieve Change, please visit our website at changeachieve.com or pamelagrove.com. If you'd like to be a speaker or you know someone else who wants to be a speaker, also visit the website and leave your email information and we will be in touch with you as soon as possible. Let's Achieve Change will air every 2 to 3 weeks, bringing you various topics on health and wellness and making the public more aware of issues that are not being discussed. We thank you very much for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone. We are in episode 7 of Autoimmune Disorders. So we have a lot to cover today. I have an exciting guest on today, and I have to say it is my daughter. So we'll be talking to Tyra later. We've been waiting to get her on for a while. She has quite a story as well. But before Tyra joins us today, I do want to continue with some more information about autoimmune disorders. We were doing nutrition last episode. I want to continue a little bit with that. So we was talking about some of the inflammatory agents that we want to stay away from. We talked about sugar, definitely looking at any refined processed sugars and high fructose corn syrup. So we're going to also bring up some more. So the other one that is a big one is dairy. And unfortunately, some people just don't have the enzyme, the lactic acid built enzyme to break down anything with lactate in it. So that would be your dairy products. So has a tendency to cause inflammation in our gut. Okay. So if you find that when you eat dairy products, you have some type of stomach upset, that's a sign that you may have some intolerance to dairy. So just a good idea to reduce the amount of dairy you try to eat. Okay. We're also finding too that even some grains, that could be wheat products in your oats. I know people think oatmeal is really good, but there's can be oats that can be a problem. And I guess it's definitely wheat because they changed the wheat fiber years and years and years ago. So it caused a lot of problems. And that's why we got a lot of people now who are gluten sensitivities. Okay. So we have that. Also legumes. So some different types of legumes, and that could be like your lentils or any of those beans that people think they're great for protein, right? But some people just can't. So if you're finding that, it's like a trial and error kind of thing. So if you're finding that you're doing these things and you're getting stomach upsets, then these are not the things for you. Okay. So remember, you have to have a healthy gut. So try to get rid of some elimination of some of those things. Okay. So let's just sum up a little bit. Definitely not sugars, different sugars, restriction on that. Be careful with your dairy. Minimizing some of the grains and legumes if you find that you have some intestinal upset afterwards. Then you have limitation on alcohol, caffeine. All these will contribute to inflammation. And so we want to cut down. So that's all part of the anti-autoimmune diet, okay? I did want to also bring up too, I think I kind of did mention it enough last week. We talked a little bit about some of the antioxidants, and I think I mentioned the ginger and the green tea. We talked a little bit about citrus, but we didn't talk enough about some of the berries. So remember that your blueberries and raspberries are high in antioxidants. So you can add those in. They're very good for that. Okay. And I think, I've probably covered enough for nutrition. Remember, as I mentioned the last time, this is only one facet of what you got to do for boosting your autoimmune. It's unfortunate because when a person has autoimmune disorder, when they take medication, which are called biologics, to sort of suppress the immune because the immune is so heightened, then it makes them have other problems that can develop. And Tyra was one of those that's prone to that. So you can develop a lot of infections. So, but that being said, you need to make sure that you're constantly building up your immune system. And I have come across a little formula, and it has worked for Tyra and some other people that I've given it to who have problems suffering with keeping the immune system built up. And you take fresh ginger. So you get like 2 big stalks of fresh ginger, 2 big stalks of celery, orange, right? A big orange, navel orange, and lemon. Okay. And you blend it all up with about 17 ounces of water. and you just keep that in your refrigerator, and you just drink that, at least an ounce of that every morning on the empty stomach, about one to 3 ounces, whatever your stomach can tolerate. And you do that for a good week. But if you can do it longer, but definitely for a good week, especially when you feel like you may be suffering a little bit of a sniffles or some of the infection kind of symptoms. Okay. So with all that being said, we're going to get off of nutrition. We're going to cover some other issues. We do have 2 more weeks in this autoimmune disorder category before we go on to another series. So there are some more things I want to cover in autoimmunes, talk more about medications, and Tyra is going to bring up that issue a little bit. So that sort of leads into, we'll do some of that next time. Okay. So without going on anymore, I'm going to bring on Tyra. Hi, I'm so excited today because we have Tyra on today. Tyra's coming to the table also with a crazy story of her life. And Tyra is, I think, still very young. She's 26. So we're going to try to condense everything that started with her in her young teenage years up until date to as much as we can in 35 minutes. So hi, Tyra. Thank you for coming. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good today. Yes, I'm good today. Thank you. So, Tyra, can you just tell the audience, I know it was a while before we got a diagnosis, but as succinctly as you can do this, okay? Tell us, when do you remember starting having chronic pain?
Wow. Okay. I feel like it's been something that has been sprinkled throughout my childhood, but there are a couple moments that where my pain and my physical reaction were like out of the norm. So I'll talk about those instances. There was one when I was 12, I believe, 11 or 12. And I just woke up one day and I don't remember having an activity right before it where I injured myself or I just overworked myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I woke up one morning and my knees were hurting, like they were hurting more than I've ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't even walk to the kitchen. And I was trying to walk into the kitchen because I don't know if I say my mom or if I say you because you're my mom. But my mom made breakfast as she always did. And I was trying to walk to the kitchen to get breakfast and I couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew something was wrong. So then I was trying to find my mom to go tell her. And I knew that this was like out of the ordinary. It was just and so I remember it took about maybe 2-3 days or something to go away. And I was getting around the house in my computer chair. That was the beginning of these intense reactions.
Yeah.
Rather than like a child's ability to fall and recover quickly.
Right.
I would have these days when I woke up and maybe for like an entire week, I would be in severe pain.
And I think also too, we kind of like dismissed it as being part of because you were very active.
Very.
You were in gymnastics, you were in dance. I mean, you were in competition dance, you were in all types of dance,
Yeah, right.
So I think we just treated the symptoms mistakenly so, but that's what we did. And that's what the doctors did. That's what everybody did. So let's fast forward a little bit. So when did we start to see more things starting to happen? I know you were sent to conservatory in the 12th grade. So talk to us, what type of regimen did you have then? And then what, did you have more problems? Were you still just experiencing mostly the knees at that point? Or what were I know you got injured a lot with the ankles too sometimes too. So, but.
Yeah, so I had a very intense dance practice. And on top of the dance practice, it was always instilled in me to keep up a physical exercise regimen on top of that, to stay in shape, stay ready to do certain things. Mm-hmm. And so by the time I went to conservatory in 12th grade, I had my regular schedule, which was starting at 8 a.m. with academic classes. So like I lived on campus and we had regular school, 8 a.m. to probably about like 5 regular school classes. At lunchtime, in between that time, I would go work out at the gym. And then we probably had some theater classes dispersed throughout that time frame. And then after 6, we had rehearsal probably until 10.
Wow. Yeah.
And then if I couldn't work out at lunchtime, which the only time I wouldn't do that is I was just too tired or I had to finish writing the paper.
Yeah.
So if I didn't do that, I would work out in the morning before my first class in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the rehearsals, I forgot exactly how soon into my year, certain things I had to stop doing. So of course that additional exercising couldn't work. Then I had to start changing my shoes. I couldn't wear any shoe with any
With
type
the
of
heel.
heel,
Yeah.
nothing. And
Yeah.
so that was like my musical theater shoes. I couldn't wear those. I couldn't even complete my dances with my jazz shoes on.
Yeah.
So I was,
And you were always trying to
I was
ice
about to
it.
say, I was about to say, the moment I was doing anything, I had my ready. Like I had my bags full of ice packs. I would get after lunch. After lunch, I would get my ice pack from the cafeteria. In the mornings, we bought a freezer.
Yeah.
So I can have it in my room. So I can have my ice packs in the room.
Yeah.
Then I had that in the morning. And then after dinner, I made my other ice packs. Oh my gosh, I had every type of cream you could imagine. I was wrapping and using the KT tape. To keep my knees in place.
Yeah.
And I had my braces on. I had my ankles wrapped up.
Yeah.
It was the whole nine
The whole 9 yards. Yeah.
through everything.
Yeah. Because we were treating symptoms to keep you going because
Exactly.
your passion, what you wanted to dance, you wanted to act. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then we fast forward, we got through that. You were awesome. You was in all these shows. You were number one in your class and you went on to Fairleigh Dickinson. And tell everybody really quickly what happened there, because that was like a big change of events. What happened in 2016 there?
I think the biggest thing to note is the elevation on the campus. It was like, I don't even remember how many miles the entire campus was like.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you. It was huge. And so
but let me just say this real quick, because this is an important fact. The Vanderbilt's own Fairleigh Dickinson, and it was so big that Vanderbilt had a train. He owned a train to get him around the campus of Fairleigh Dickinson. That's how big, and that's how this was not a school that was probably for people to be walking around anyway. But anyway, fast forward. So go ahead, fast forward a little bit. So go ahead.
And like, because everything was elevated.
Yeah.
There's stairs. So it's not just you're walking these far distances. You're walking a far distance with like maybe 5 flights of stairs, not including the flight to once you get inside of the building.
Yeah.
And then like I lived on the 2nd or 3rd floor in my dorm room. And so I was already coming into it with this level of pain that would just come up, especially when winter came. So whenever I had these winter months, it was an additional flare-up that would come.
Right.
And of course, I didn't know any of this. I just was like, I don't know, maybe I did too much or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just treating it as it came.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I'll say this. I was still trying to keep up that workout regimen. I was trying my best. I was trying, girl.
Okay. And now you're in the show. Now, first year, you never get first year student in a show, and you're in the show because they knew how good you were. So now you're in the show. So come on, we've got to fast forward this. Hurry up.
And on top of that, inside the show, there's a lot of tricks and things happening. And so my body was under so much stress from trying to work out, trying to walk around this campus for all of my classes, for all like the early morning until rehearsal time.
Yeah.
And then after that rehearsal time, which 6 o'clock rehearsal time is a theme throughout my life. And so after rehearsal time, doing all the stuff needed for the show. But then after the show, you have to rehearse it because rehearsal's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So then I got to the point where my pain was intense. But it was so intense. I was walking through the cafeteria to get my food and I was sobbing because of how much pain I was in. And I physically not walking. Like I really got to the point where I couldn't.
Yeah. And you were calling home crying at that point. So we said, we got to get you to a specialist. We sent you to an orthopedic specialist in New York.
Yeah, the hospital specialized surgery.
In New York. Okay. And I want to say this girl was so brave that at 18, she took the trains to New York by herself to go to the specialist. And so she diagnosed you with what? What did she diagnose you with after the MRIs?
I tore both of my ACLs, and they were identical tears on both sides. So that to her said something was wrong in a way that it wasn't an incident. It was something within my body, within my system, that was wrong, that we needed to figure out, but she didn't know what it was. And she couldn't really figure out what it was. Because she was looking for something to operate on.
Exactly. Because she's a surgeon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she knew that the operation wouldn't do anything and I would just happen again.
Yeah.
And that we had to find out what it was that was causing this thing that would happen again, inevitably.
Yeah. And she did not know. So at that point, she recommended doing the conservative route as the bracing and the neuromuscular training. She was to a specialized therapist in New York who treated dance students. And that's how we approached that.
She was one of the best therapists I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, she was good. She really was good. Wish could have had her forever. But anyway, so we had her. And this is your mom. Don't say that.
I was going to say, I've had 3 good therapists. The other ones have been whatever, but I've had 3 really, really phenomenal therapists. It was her, it was you, and then it was the woman who got me through my career at DePaul.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are now. She put you on medication. So we got to talk about this medication because she put you on medication because she knew you were in a lot of pain. So let's talk about how you used the medication to get you through, because you finally transferred to a conservatory acting program because you figured, dance is not going to be a major at this point. So we decided to transfer you to a conservative you went to DePaul in Chicago. But how were you surviving? Because she has prescribed you a medication. Why don't you talk about that? Go ahead.
So in addition to the scans, because she knew it was systemic, but not what it was.
But she suspected it was a systemic. She didn't know. She suspected it because we had.
Yeah. But within the investigation, the testing and to see what was going on, and my inflammation was off the charts. So she prescribed meloxicam, and I'm not going to say what this does to anybody else. I'll speak for myself. But I was on a high dose of meloxicam, which I didn't know. I was a child.
Yeah,
and all I knew is that when I took this pill, I could move. And when I didn't take the pill, I quit. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I took this pill every single day.
Yeah.
And in addition to class rehearsal, I also had 2 to 3 jobs at any given time. And so if I didn't take this pill, I couldn't work and go to school. If I did take the pill, I could. And eventually, let's say I started taking this medication.
2016.
Mid 2016.
October 2016. October, not to cut you off, but yeah.
Yeah, so it was end of 2016.
Yeah.
And then it took me up to, do the math for me, Mom, sophomore year?
Yeah, sophomore year, and you probably 2017, 18, about that time in DePaul. That's when you start to have the problems with the stomach. So let's say 18. Yeah, so 18. Yeah.
In between class, I remember I started having this just burning stomach pain. It was just like a continuous burning in my stomach that would just come up. I don't know. And then it escalated to, I was walking to class one day and I started projectile vomiting. I couldn't keep anything down. I was trying to walk. So then I turned around. I was like, I'll go back home. I couldn't even get down the street. I was just on the street, just throwing up every step. And so I went to the school
campus
medical thing.
Right, on campus, yeah.
They thought I had a late night alcoholic bender. And I was trying to explain that wasn't true. And then they told me I was pregnant. And I was like, I don't think this is pregnancy. And then finally, I actually went to the doctor.
Right.
Because it was like, this is extreme, okay? And then and when I went, they were like, you have a literal stomach bleed. And if you waited any longer, you probably would have died.
Yeah.
And so immediately they took me off of that medication.
Yeah.
And so,
and mind you, let me say this: you had to come off a cold turkey. So let me just
immediately.
Let me say this to the audience. So here we are. In her defense too, I believe that there was other things that had been tried throughout. You had gone to a couple other orthopedists in Chicago, and they did the same thing. They
continuously got misdiagnosed. I went to multiple therapists. I got misdiagnosed, or they gave up on my plan of care.
Right.
I went to a couple surgeons that did all the whole span and then ghosted me. It was a whole process of trying to find anything.
But let me just try to land a little bit better. So basically, in her defense, she was trying to survive. And here she, as she mentioned, she was always having to work because she never had the finances that some of those other kids had in DePaul. So she didn't have that kind of luxury. So she had to continually work. So she was trying it. So Tyra, I want you to tell us, because this is very important before we run out of time, how bad had you gotten at DePaul before COVID? Because now you were off of this medication. You can no longer take that. They put you on, I think they put you on Celebrex, was not even as nowhere near. And we still didn't have a diagnosis, mind you. Okay. So, and pretty much you were still pretty much in your knees at that point. But talk to us about how bad you were at this point while you were at DePaul before COVID, because that was another big major turning point. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So in going cold turkey, in my stomach, my lining just being completely messed up. So I also couldn't eat anything. The only thing I could eat was celery for a long time. So at all times, you can ask my classmates, like I was in classes crunching, okay? And so I couldn't take anything for a long span of time. And as time went by, I finally could start taking that Celebrex, because at first when I was trying to, I would throw it up anyway. So finally, when I got to the point where I could take it, my pain was at the point where, and this was over like a couple months, escalating so quickly.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I couldn't walk from my class to the bathroom.
Wow.
I would like completely pack my bag. So I would bring a suitcase. I got a suitcase, and I would
had the rolling ones. We had to buy you a rolling suitcase.
A rolling one. And I would pack it so that I limited my movement throughout the day. So I would pack every single thing and just live in that building to the point where I didn't have to get up. I had a little freezer inside of the building where I had all my ice packs, but I would pack my ice packs in the suitcase. I packed as much food as possible in the suitcase. Everything I needed.
People went to the cafeteria for you too, right?
Well, went to the cafeteria, and then I couldn't work as much anymore. So I was trying to pay people to go get me food from the cafeteria with my card. Not my real card, but the school card.
The school card, yeah.
We found prop wheelchairs downstairs in the, what is it called? The technical, whatever.
Right.
We found these prop wheelchairs from the old shows, and my friends would push me in the wheelchairs around the campus.
Wow.
Because I will say, I asked my doctor at the time for a wheelchair, and he was like, I do not want to sentence you to that or something. It was so stupid. And then, or I would just be hungry if I couldn't do it. Because then if I made it home and I was at home like on the weekends and stuff and I couldn't do anything, I would just sit in bed. This became a thing for years.
Yeah. And let me just say too, you were so bad that we had to start to have you Uber.
That was my next thing. I couldn't get to the school.
You couldn't even walk to the bus stops. You had to be Uber. So now we're talking about even more financial strain, right?
Uber. And then the walk was probably about 7 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
7 to 10 minute walk.
Yeah, because I walked that walk many times. Yeah. So, that's now, here we are now. We are at the point where they're probably whispering. Your instructors are probably whispering, is she going to make it through this program? Because you're already in the third year by this time.
Oh, they weren't whispering. They had microphones. And
but in your defense, though, you were still probably the best actress there, even with all of that and all some of those other kids who had no other problems. I don't have to say that.
I won't exaggerate. I did my thing, but I won't say that.
I'm going to give you props. But anyway, here COVID came, and I, be honest with you, COVID was probably one of the worst things for everybody, but it was a blessing for you because
for me, we went online,
and you needed to come home. So we came to North Carolina, and we're going to keep on trying to fast forward this story because we still didn't have a diagnosis. You go back, you finally get a diagnosis. When did we get a diagnosis? It's July of 2021. We were you had graduated from DePaul. We were this is it. You had got one of the best Chicago agents. And we thought, wow, you're going to at least launch your career. And we finally get this diagnosis. And what was your diagnosis?
rheumatoid arthritis.
Right.
But I will say before this happened, during COVID, I finished that year bedridden. Like I was in pain and in bed, wrapped in ice packs and hot packs all day, to the point where you were lifting me off the ground and carrying me to the bathroom and putting me on my walker and pushing me to use the bathroom, and then laying me at the bottom of the shower to just sit there until you helped me get out. So like it had gotten to that point. And it was great because I was on my laptop with the front camera and they just saw that, not what was right under. So then basically what happened was, through that time, pushing through the pain, this was a thing that I have to keep doing every time, is every single day going outside with that walker, taking 10 steps, next day taking 20 steps, next day taking 50, next day I'm going from this speed bump to that speed bump. And then it got to the point where like it was COVID and people were like sitting outside like cheering because I went a little bit further than I did last week. And so I did this till I got to the point where I could go back to Chicago, because I did sign with that agent, and I had to finish my final year and everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it had to work somehow. So we had to get to the point where I could physically do that and do the amount of walking and moving that would be required of me, you know.
Yeah. We got to get you stronger. So I'm trying to fast forward it, because when you came home, if I come from a physical therapy standpoint to understand where you were, you could not walk. Because I had to get you strong enough.
My muscles completely atrophied.
Right.
Like I couldn't even lift my leg up.
Yeah, I had to constantly work on your individual muscles to get you back. But anyway, we get diagnosed. And I want to get this. We have about 6 minutes left. We get to the diagnosis. And now the first line of defense is to put you on a biologic, because RA can cause crippling joint deformities, right? It can cause problems with the heart. It can cause a lot of other problems. So the first rheumatologist you saw, he thought, you may have had this going on for a while. And he did believe that. So he put you on the first line of defense of methotrexate. And we thought, okay, we get this on this, she can go into remission. We're going to be smooth sailing. That's what we thought. That's what we believed anyway. What happened?
And so to support myself financially, I had to quit everything and only work something that I can determine the hours.
Right.
And so I started Ubering, because we had to get me a car because I can no longer take public transportation.
Right.
And so, or get an Uber, okay?
Yeah.
So, so I had to start driving the Uber instead of calling the Uber. And I kept recognizing like my hands would be shaking, my legs would be shaking. I started having these tremors, and it increased so quickly. My mind, it would almost felt like my brain was vibrating or something. And it started getting worse and worse. And then I started having actual seizures. And the one that just scared me to no end, I was Ubering. And I just dropped somebody off. And I thank God that I dropped them off. But I was going to pick someone up. And that vibration just started even more intense than when it was just like tremors in my hands and legs and stuff. And I like pulled over. And then I went out. I was out. And then I woke up and I'm like, I don't know what just happened to me. So then I was far from home. I was probably like 28 minutes away. And so I drive home and I get to my street and I'm getting out of my car and it happened again. And I passed out on the street and had a seizure in the street. And then I just started having these seizures more and more and more and more. I was at my boyfriend's house at the time and we were just watching a movie, chilling, low stress. And I just had a full seizure in front of him. And then because this happened when I was away from him. So I didn't know what was happening. And then I woke up, you know what I mean? So then he was looking at me, was like, you literally had a seizure. And then so we immediately called you. And then these started happening maybe like 5 times a day. Just seizures.
Yeah. So we knew we had to fly you back home. So we had to get you back home. And anyway, we're going to have to kind of land this. So all I'm going to say about that is that physician said more than one time, well, no one he's ever known has ever had seizures from methotrexate. Although many people witnessed, and I witnessed when I picked you up from the airport,
You had a seizure in the car.
A seizure in the car. Seizure in the emergency room.
Emergency room.
Over and over again. So, and Tyra had to then try to still go on many, many different medications from that point on. I think she's been on how many biologics maybe now? Maybe 4 or 5. I'm not sure how many.
5.
5, at least 5. And none of them have really worked for her. She's had either some type of reaction to them or some type of, just didn't get her to go into remission. And I'm just bringing that all up because, unfortunately, there's some people can just take one biologic and they could go into remission. And that's what we pray for her. We're not giving up. We're still going to believe for her to find one that's going to work for her. She has had probably from the time that she started methotrexate in 2021 to 2024, another episode that she was on, Tyra, right? Tyra?
Yes, that one, yes.
And that's when we finally got you to do an infusion. We thought, okay, this might be the answer. We was on with another rheumatologist. And we don't have enough time to go into all of that detail, but this give us a little bit of insight of what happened with that one. Just about 2 minutes worth.
Oh, gosh. I feel like it's so hazy now because my brain at that point was just, it was a day's haze. Right after the infusion, like the next day, I woke up and I could not move my limbs. It was worse than just morning stiffness. It was a full body reaction that was just, I can't even really explain.
Yeah.
So I called my doctor. She's not answering my phone calls. I'm calling their office. And, right in front of my face, she was like, if anything happened, call me. I'll make sure I go. And so I'm calling their office and I'm trying to see somebody. Finally, one of the doctors was like, I got to go home in 15 minutes. But if you get here within the 15 minutes before I got to go home, I'll talk to you. And so then he's looking at me and he's like, you got to go to the hospital. I don't know what happened. But so there's like a 30-minute period where you stay after the infusion, and their office was trying not to have any responsibility. So they said this reaction didn't happen within that time span. Right. So it's not
from that.
Tyra.
Yeah. So
and then I got hospitalized after that.
Hospitalized after that. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to end with that because we have not found one yet. We're on the Embro now. We're still trying to figure out. We're going to go to.
But I will say Embro is the best one I've ever.
So far up to date. But okay, so we know a lot of things have happened since then, and we're going to have Tyra back again because Tyra also started to experience autonomic dysfunction, and that's another big can of worms that we need to address because a lot of people have no clue what that is. We believe that could have tied in with
absolutely,
with the infusion that she had and Tyra. So we're going to have her come back in another time for that. But Tyra, we got 3 minutes. And what I want you to do, this is very important. I want you to do 2 things for me. One is I want you to tell us some recommendations that if you had all the power in your hand, some of the things you would recommend. And I want you to give us an epitaph, asking everybody this story because I'm going to have a chapter with you and it's going to describe you or how you thought of you, how you think of you, or what you think about yourself or what you represent. So those 2 things in a matter of 3 minutes. Recommendations really quickly and something that you want us to remember you by because that's going to be the name of your chapter. Real quick.
Oh, if I had advice, I think making yourself an expert on your diagnosis, on just anything you can find medically, becoming an expert. Mm-hmm. And that is an ongoing, lifelong journey just to make sure that nobody can tell you something without you looking it up.
Yeah, I like that.
You have to be an expert on your body, what is going on with it, keeping journals, logs, all of that have probably saved my life. Mm-hmm. And just actually knowing what I did, when I did it, why I did it, how I reacted. Mm-hmm. You need to be an expert.
Yeah.
Just as much as you can. And it's really hard because you are sick, but you have to because no one will do it for you.
And you have to have support. Thank God you had support. You have support.
Yes. And even with support, I still have to say that. Even with support, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. To remember me by?
Yes. How would describe you? If somebody, that sounds like Tyra, what would you say? What would be your chapter?
I don't know. It's probably someone who doesn't give up and will tell a joke while doing
it. You're funny. I gotta have a title though. You gotta give me a title. What would you say?
Persistence with a sense of humor.
persistence with a sense of humor. Okay. I like that. Persistence with a sense of humor and a smile on her face.
You added that. Sometimes I have an attitude, so I know always
You do. I got to say yes to that. But I had to give you credit. I love you so much. I think you're probably one of the strongest persons I know. Okay. And I tell you, I thank God for you. I still wouldn't trade you in. As many times you get on my nerves, I would trade you in. So
do you say that to all your guests?
Yes. Okay, we thank you so much for coming on, okay? We definitely going to have you back when we discuss autonomic dysfunctions, okay?
Thank you. Thank you
so much. Bless you now. Bye-bye now. Once again, thank you, Tyra, for joining us. As I mentioned earlier with the interview, we will be bringing her back because Tyra also has autonomic dysfunction, and we want to deal with that. That's a whole nother disorder that we need to really bring some more information to, educate people on that. So we'll bring her back with that. But just to sum up a little bit about what she did cover, because she covered so much in a matter of 30-something minutes, but she talked a lot about how long it took her to get diagnosed. And I kind of mentioned that last time. If you're finding that you're having symptoms and you have not been diagnosed, make sure that you stay persistent with that to get your diagnosis and get you some type of treatment regimen. We haven't got her into remission yet. We've been trying so many things. You see how she said, so many upset with that, but we have not lost faith with that. So we staying encouraged with that. We also talked a lot. She talked a lot about being on anti-inflammatory medication and then causing her to have a GI bleed. That is a very sensitive subject that needs to be addressed. So you got to be very careful with the amount of anti-inflammatories you take. She had always limited financial resources. So it always works hard to try to make amends, but just was not able to keep up that regimen. And so she suffered with pain and more disability as a result of that. Okay. So I think that's all we're going to be able to cover for this episode. Once again, I thank you so much for joining us. If you want to have your story told, or you will know someone else who want to have their story to be told, just contact us. Go into our website, PamelaGrove.com or ChangeAchieve.com, and there will be a place for you to sign up with your email address, and we'll get in touch with you to tell your story as well. Until next time, talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in today at Let's Achieve Change. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You will find out more about Metanoia Education and Wellness Center on our website at ChangeAchieve.com. We welcome your questions and your feedback. Please feel free to fill out the form on the website and we will contact you directly. I pray that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Remember, it's all about the change. Thank you.